manager, Congressman Jamie Raskin, opened his case with a striking 13-minute video that brought home the harrowing reality of the events of January 6th, stitching together video collected on the scene and inside the Capitol. We are going to play that video for you now. You absolutely, if you have not seen it, should see it. If you've seen it once, you should see it again. We're going to play it in its entirety as it was presented to the United States Senate, unedited and uncensored. Because what was presented in the trial as evidence in a matter of public record, we have not bleeped the graphic language or obscured the violent images, so viewer discretion is advised.
We will stop the steal. Today I will lay out just some of the evidence proving that we won this election, and we won it by a landslide. This was not a close election. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down.
Madam Speaker, the Vice President, and the United States Senate.
The Constitution says you have to protect our country, and you have to protect our Constitution. And you can't vote on fraud. And fraud breaks up everything, doesn't it? When you catch somebody in a fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules. So I hope Mike has the courage to do what he has to do. Such a thing happened where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election. But we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and...
Something, right? Republican Senator Roy Blunt, like he spoke on many of his colleagues when he said, quote, that may be the longest time I've sat down and just watched straight footage of what was truly a horrendous day. Former Senator Claire McCaskill said she was told that some Republican senators, including Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, looked away from the video and didn't watch. The opening salvo by impeachment managers, the Trump defense team changed their entire plan. They were going to first, but instead, as Trump lawyer Bruce Castor admitted 45 minutes into a rambling, bizarre, largely incoherent defense, they had to change tack because the House impeachment argument was so strong.
I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done. And I wanted you to know that we have responses to those things. I thought that what the first part of the case was, which was the equivalent of a motion to dismiss, was going to be about jurisdiction alone. We have counter arguments to everything that they raised. And you will hear them later on in the case from Mr. Van der Veen and from myself.
After Castor, a second Trump lawyer appeared, David Schoen. He was different in tone, less meandering, much more angry in his delivery. He expressed outrage at the House manager's video of the insurrection and accused House managers of hiring a movie company to produce it, and then minutes later played his own video, a brief, out-of-context compilation of Democrats talking about impeaching Trump, all set to scary background music. I want to bring in one of the jurors in Trump's impeachment trial who's there in that room, Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. Senator, thank you for joining us. What was it like in that room today?
It was chilling to watch that video and to be in the very room where this had happened. I say everyone was watching the video, and what you saw for the first time was just in just a visceral way, the things he had been saying at the rally, which of course we were not watching, we were doing our job, to basically directing this angry mob to go down the wall. And then the timelines for when he did his first video hours later, and then that tweet, which I had actually never put together the timeline there, that was literally after the officers had been hurt, over 100 of them. Then we now know that we had an officer that died because of the injuries sustained, that a woman had been shot, someone else had been trampled. What does he do? He send out, after being glued to the TV, a tweet that says, these are the things and events that happen when a landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots. He is calling them great patriots, Chris, who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Then he tells them to go home, but then he ends with, remember this day forever. So to me, that's all you need to know about Donald Trump and his role in inciting this riot.
Yeah, I agree that the sort of syncing of the timelines, the president's words and actions, the fact that it was 2 hours after the Capitol breach, that he puts a video in which he says to the people, we love you. He also says, go home in peace, as in there will be no repercussion. Like, we're gonna, okay, enough of this, you guys can go home. No, not, you know, we will bring these people to justice, none of that. The other thing, I wonder if you noted this, or if you felt it in the room watching that video, the fact that so many of the people that assaulted the Capitol were literally carrying Trump flags, were literally engaging it under his banner in a like medieval sense, and whether you had seen that before, whether that hit you sitting in that room.
It did, because remember, he spent his 4 years going after the other branches of government, an assault on the courts with his words, an assault on Congress, and this time he actually sent them down there, and they were actually using these banners and poles with his name on it to literally ram in the door, which, as Jamie Raskin memorably described, that was a sound he will never forget as they tried to ram in the door. And he talked about the fact that, and I remember this video that I'll never forget, is one of them using an American flag attached to a pole to beat an officer when the officer was simply trying to defend our country and defend that flag. Those are visceral moments. And so when you ask how the senators reacted, I don't want to care. I don't want to hear about how they didn't like the defense lawyers. Yeah, they weren't good. Okay, fine. That's not the point. You can't make a defense for the indefensible. And so what I hope my colleagues listen to as we move forward in this trial are the facts. And the facts are on full, ugly, horrific display in that video you just showed.
Yeah, there was a moment I want to play for you when Mr. Schoen, who's one of the lawyers for the ex-president, the defeated and impeached president, that basically that they have tried to take this view, and they said it in their brief and said it here, that it is somehow outrageous or incitement itself to just say what happened on that day. Here's what Schoen said about the presentation by the House impeachment manager. Take a listen.
We now learn that the House managers, in their wisdom, have hired a movie company and a large law firm to create, manufacture, and splice for you a package designed by experts to chill and horrify you and our fellow Americans. They want to put you through a 16-hour presentation over 2 days, focusing on this as if it were some sort of blood sport.
What do you think of that?
The House managers have a job, and they're putting on a case. And this isn't one of those cases that involves a lot of behind closed-door investigation of what happened when people weren't at meetings. It may eventually, with whoever was involved in funding this and other things. But right now, this is about simply, did the president incite this riot? And all you need to look at are his words, what he said leading up to it. It wasn't just one momentary utterance. It was all of his bashing the election, bashing our democracy, calling his people to arms, calling his people to go down that mall. And then you have to look at what they did. And when you see that officer screaming, who's just simply trying to protect the Capitol, when you hear their words, when they are saying unbelievable things about our police officers, about our representatives, going after personally the vice president, something that the president kept doing, including on the day of January 6th, simply because the former vice president was doing his job, which was to preside over the Electoral College. Those things, those are the facts, those are the words, and I don't think any faux argument that somehow the Constitution doesn't allow for this is going to work. That's why Senator Cassidy changed his vote. That's why you saw conservative lawyers, including one man, Mr. Cooper, that had been named Republican Lawyer of the Year, coming out clearly and saying, you know what? They don't really have a case here. The precedent of the Senate, as well as the language of the Constitution, makes it very clear this case should go forward.
Senator Amy Klobuchar, who will be a juror in this proceeding for the next week and a half, long as it takes. After a very busy and grueling day, thank you for making time for us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
The second impeachment trial of Donald Trump focused on just one question: whether or not it is constitutional to try and impeach a president who is no longer in office. The vast majority of experts who have really studied that issue agree with the House impeachment mandate. The trial is absolutely constitutional. Each side got 2 hours a day to argue.
Their argument is that if you commit an impeachable offense in your last few weeks in office, you do it with constitutional impunity. You get away with it. In other words, conduct that would be a high crime and misdemeanor in your first year as president, and your second year as president, and your third year as president, and for the vast majority of your fourth year as president, you can suddenly do in your last few weeks in office without facing any constitutional accountability at all. This would create a brand new January exception to the Constitution of the United States of America.
Judgment, in other words, the bad thing that can happen, the judgment, in cases of impeachment, i.e. what we are doing, shall not extend further than removal from office. What is so hard about that? Which of those words are unclear? Shall not extend further than removal from office. President Trump no longer is in office. The object of the Constitution has been achieved. He was removed by the voters.
To assess those arguments, I'm joined now by Lawrence Tribe, professor of constitutional law at Harvard Law School and co-author of To End Presidency, The Power of Impeachment. Now, Professor Tribe, I will start by saying, as the senator noted, that I think there's an asymmetry in the hands that each side have been dealt in terms of the strength of their cases. So whether the lawyering was up to snuff or not, which I think it was clearly not very good, what was your assessment of the arguments today?
Well, what you just played is a good example. When Mr. Castor purported to quote the Constitution and said, "Judgment shall not extend beyond removal from office," he was lying by stopping the sentence there, because it goes on. It says, "and disqualification from holding future office." That is what this is all about. So it wasn't just a bad argument. It was a distortion of everything. And we shouldn't forget how powerful the argument on the other side was. It wasn't just that the president's lawyers basically sucked.